What do y'all think? You think if Jennifer Lopez ran, yeah, she probably would actually, Gabriel, you're right. What do you think if Jennifer Lopez ran for president, would you vote for her? Anybody in here would vote for Jennifer Lopez for president? And you're right, she probably would show the Epstein list. Gabriel, thank you for joining. Would you vote for her to be president if she ran for president? I do believe that Jennifer Lopez would show the Epstein list because she's not guilty, part of the Epstein list. But I do believe that if Jennifer Lopez was guilty of something, she would not show it. But I do believe that she would show the Epstein list because she's not part of the Epstein list. But I also believe that if Jennifer Lopez was guilty of something, she would not show it either. But she would show the Epstein list because she has nothing to do with the Epstein list, in my opinion. Now, would she show the Diddy list? I don't think so. If she's on the Diddy list, I don't know if Jennifer Lopez would show the Diddy list. It's also bizarre how Jennifer Lopez and a lot of these rich celebrities who had personal relationships with Diddy, why are they suddenly so silent? Like, you would expect Jennifer Lopez to have a number one interview where she tells all about her ex-husband Diddy. Where is this interview? Where is the number one Jennifer Lopez interview where she dishes everything about Diddy, her ex-husband Diddy? Where's the interview? Isn't it odd how they're all suddenly silent and getting lawyers? They're all suddenly silent and getting lawyers. Hey Tim, I hope you're not one of those homophobic people that robbed me and put a gun to my head and stole my money. Thank you for coming in and thank you for saying that to me. That's great. Thank you. I always love meeting new homophobic people. Americans, I think you got a lot more to worry about than me. You got China and Russia to worry about, and Mexico, and Iran, and North Korea, and Germany, and Japan. And okay, the list goes on and on. It goes on and on, my friends. The list of American enemies never ends. But you get the point. Americans, you got way more to worry about than just a gay guy from Canada. Although, when you do show the list of enemies, I'm pretty sure us gay guys probably have a bone, probably have an issue with the way we've been treated by America, by people in the past. Sir, we've narrowed down the possibilities of who could have been behind 9/11. So this is the world map of the world, and now this is the map of the world of countries that could possibly have been behind 9/11. The map stays the same. Sir, it's the same picture. You're like, I know. I'm sorry. It's the same map. Nothing's changed. I know. It's it's the map of the world. They're like, can we even rule out ourselves? No, we can't rule out America either. And then, sure enough, there were all these documentaries that said that 9/11 was an inside job. So then there were all these documentaries saying 9/11 was an inside job. I'm eating spicy noodles. Sorry, I'm eating noodles and they're spicy. So after the United States was looking at the map of the world, trying to figure out who could be behind 9/11, then there were a whole bunch of documentaries made in Canada that suggested that 9/11 was an inside job and Americans attacked themselves. I love German men. No, I'm just. Anyways, I love Germany. Germans are so funny. Have you ever gone to Oktoberfest and like they all got big sausages and beer in Oktoberfest? Germans are so funny. I was like, I can't believe America went to war with these people. The Germans are such nice people. Then I went to France. You know France, where they speak French. I went to France, and I kept thinking to myself, I can't believe America went to war with Germany. The Germans are such nice people. You know what's funny? Something really funny. So I learned to speak Russian. I studied the Russian language for years because Russian men, like I'm from Russia. I'm so strong. I chop wood with my bare hands. I'm from Russia. So Russian men are just so masculine. So I learned Russian. I like Russian men, and it's funny because the Russians, like, I go to actually translate what they're saying. And so one time, this Russian guy, it's on YouTube, the video's on YouTube. He's like in America, and he's like, wow, he's like, look at America, it's so big. And then he says, wow, look at that Mexican family, they got like 20 kids. He just starts saying it. And he says it in Russian, right? But it was translated onto, and he's like, oh, look at that Mexican family. They got 20 kids. He was exaggerating, but they had a lot of kids. And then the Russian, it was funny. They were asking the Russian guy, they were saying, so which hotel are you going to stay at in America? He said, well, not one ridden with bed bugs, that's for sure. The Russians, the Russians like are not behind on their American stereo. Then in another video, the Russian guy was with his wife. They were at the airport and they were planning a trip to Mexico. And I could swear they were Russian spies because they were talking like a very like coded language as if like they were planning an operation. It was really bizarre. And then the girl's like, she's like, did you pack protection? And I could swear they meant more than just the condoms. She's like, she says to her Russian husband, did you pack protection? And I could swear she meant more than just condoms. I swear they were Russian spies. I could swear. No, they were for real. They were like these Russian travel YouTubers where they go around, they're Russians and they travel the world, you know. And they were going to Mexico, I guess, to see Mexico. Let's talk about AOC for a second. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So there's a guy named Benny Johnson, and I can't tell if he likes AOC, if he have a crush on her, if he's just using her for clout. But Benny Johnson is a big YouTuber right now with a million person platform, Benny Johnson. And he did this whole report on AOC allegedly lying about her being from Yorktown and being from the Bronx. So apparently AOC is both from Yorktown and from the Bronx because she grew up in Yorktown, then she moved to the Bronx when she was whatever in her 20s. And this Benny Johnson guy was like, who's a big time YouTuber with millions. He's fixated on trying to expose AOC for lying about the fact, for overstating the fact that she's like a girl from the Bronx or something. Which also reminded me how Jennifer Lopez is from the Bronx, J Lo from the Bronx, right? And I'm like, why would a American Democrat politician think that lying about the Bronx, being from the Bronx, is being from the Bronx really special? Like I'm from Canada, so I don't know. So is someone saying they're from the Bronx, is that gonna like make them get elected to be the next president? I don't see what the point Benny Johnson's point was. He's like, oh, she's not really from the Bronx. She lied, or then he said, well, she is from the Bronx, but she moved there when she was in her 20s, and originally she grew up in Yorktown. Like, okay, why does any of that matter? Like, is someone being from the Bronx, like J Lo was from the Bronx, but like is being from the Bronx like make you an electable figure? Are people suddenly knowing that she's from the Bronx? Is AOC lying about the fact that she's from the Bronx? Does she do that as some sort of political career move? Like as if you're from the Bronx, people will vote for you? Like I don't understand. I'm Canadian, so I don't get what was the whole point there of exposing AOC for lying about being from the Bronx. It made no sense. Hey, Benny Johnson, how about you talk about pollution, homelessness? Like, I mean, I'm not a climate change expert, But apparently, like the change experts are complaining about climate change. I don't know. Like, I'm not a climate change expert. I'm not going to disagree with the climate scientists. There's all of these people trying to deny climate change. Listen, I don't know. I don't know if climate change is real or not. All I know is it's more important to discuss climate change than to discuss where AOC grew up. Who cares? Who cares if AOC, as long as she's an American citizen, right, then she's eligible to be president. Who cares if AOC grew up in Yorktown or the Bronx or Hollywood, behind a Hollywood dumpster, whatever? Who cares where she grew up? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where she grew up. That is like, why are you picking into her background? This is not an issue. Real issues are the environment, Mother Earth, pollution, homelessness, people that can't find jobs, the economy, like high taxes, the economy, pollution, people not being able to find a job, the Epstein list. These are real issues. And Benny Johnson, who's like a million person platform, he's got a platform of millions. He's literally doing this whole series of videos saying, "Oh, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, lied about being from the Bronx. She's really from Yorktown." Okay, thank you, Benny Johnson. So glad for that information. It's totally gonna like change the planet. But technically, okay, yeah. So someone came in and said, "Hello, Victor Sneller." It said you said it speaks to trust. Okay, I get it. Lying about where you're from is a trust issue, but technically, he even admits, Benny Johnson, oh, well, technically, yeah, she did move to the Bronx when she was in her 20s. So I guess if she wants to call herself a Bronx girl, but really, she didn't really grow up in the Bronx. Like, he's like nitpicking. He's nitpicking on the fact that she said she's a Bronx girl, but she doesn't have the right to say she's a Bronx girl because technically she didn't grow up in the Bronx. She just moved to the Bronx in her 20s. Whatever. She's still a Bronx girl because she still lived in the Bronx at some point. Like, I don't know. It just didn't make any sense. Like, we get it. You're trying to listen, I'm sure that there's bigger issues right now that you can expose. Like, hey, Benny Johnson, like the Epstein list, pollution, the Diddy list. These are all much bigger issues than where AOC grew up. And if she like flat out lied and said, "Oh, like that," she grew up in whatever, I don't know, Detroit, and then turns out she grew up in Hollywood, California. But she's not saying that. She's saying that she grew up in both Yorktown and the Bronx girl. But he was fixated on the fact that she over exaggerated how long she was in the Bronx for. Whatever, she was there in her 20s. That I guess that technically makes someone a Bronx girl if they're there and even in their 20s. So. It almost seemed like he was promoting AOC. A lot of times, these people, they pretend as if they're against someone, and really they're promoting these people. See, they're all in cahoots. All of these people, they're all in cahoots with each other. Even the world leaders are in cahoots with each other. Even Putin, he's probably having secret billionaire meetings with Trump. Like, I wouldn't. Hey, do you guys think that it's possible that Putin could have gone to Epstein Island? What do you guys think? Do you guys think Vladimir Putin could have gone to Epstein Island before the Russians off me? Do you guys think it's possible that Vladimir Putin could have gone to Epstein Island? Before the Russians turned me into borscht, Russian soup, borscht, before the Russians turned me into borscht, do you think it's possible that Vladimir Putin, President Vladimir Putin of Russia, could have been in the Epstein case and Epstein Island, Epstein list? What do you think? And then on top of that, listen, I'm not gonna rule out. Okay, after we found out that the French president's wife is a man, I'm not gonna assume anything anymore. I'm not gonna assume anything. So we have to open our minds to every possibility. Not only could President Vladimir Putin have been in the Epstein list, but what about President Xi Jinping, the president of China? Even the president of China, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's the president of China. He must get a lot of women for being the president of China. Like, what if he's in the Epstein list? What if the president of China is in the Epstein list? And like, what happened on Epstein Island? Was President Xi Jinping there? And then the next thing you know, like, was Trump doing a trade negotiation with China at Epstein Island? You never know, really. So I wouldn't put it past anything. I mean, I've been shocked before. We've been shocked before. I mean, Canada. Well, Canada wasn't really shocked on 9/11 because we knew it was going to happen. But I mean, Americans on 9/11 were totally shocked when 9/11 happened. No one expected the Twin Towers to get hit by them planes. No. So I mean, we've been shocked before. It's also possible that the Russians are keeping Trump from releasing the Epstein files because the Russians have mutual dirt on other people in America, right? Because the Russians, I mean, FSB agents, they probably got a lot of dirt on Americans. They probably, agents, Russian FSB agents, they probably got lots of secrets, dirt on Americans. And maybe if President Vladimir Putin really is in the Epstein list, then Putin be like, no, not Trump. No, you don't expose Russia because if you expose Russia, Russia expose you. So maybe that's what's going on. There's some sort of Russia Gate scandal involving the Epstein list. Maybe the Russians are preventing Trump from showing the Epstein list. So it's possible. In Canada, we heard a lot of rumors about Vladimir Putin. So in Canada, we heard all these rumors about President Vladimir Putin. So one of the rumors we heard, so apparently there were these Russian immigrants that had come to something about a Russian woman coming to Canada. She spread some gossip, she spread some rumors. Then she eventually went back to Russia. So I don't know what happened there, but there was a Russian woman who said that Putin is very allegedly very well endowed and that Putin is so big that he actually sent Russian women to the hospital. Like, obviously, not intentionally, but just for the fact that Putin is so well endowed. He literally had slept with Russian women and it was so big that they went to the hospital for injuries. Like, so we heard a lot of like rumors about Putin. The other thing we heard about Vladimir Putin is that Putin apparently has a palace, a secret palace in France. So apparently Putin owns a lot of property in France. Apparently, Putin even has a lot of business partners in France. Apparently, Putin and Emmanuel Macron, the French president, apparently they're like good friends. And Vladimir Putin has a big, like, he owns this big property in France or something. So we hear a lot of rumors about Russia and President Vladimir Putin. And apparently, he also assassinated Alexei Navalny, who was the Russian opposition leader of, like, I guess, the Liberal Party or something. Alexei Navalny was like the main opponent of Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin apparently assassinated Alexei Navalny. Really sad. There's a whole movie too called Navalny now, right? Where they talk about Alexei Navalny, and he was the main opponent against Putin, and then Putin had him assassinated. Very scary stuff. Wow. And this isn't really so much as a rumor as me just wondering things, but this next thing I wonder about is how come, for example, in America, for example, we have all of these people claiming to be politically correct, right? But they're also the same people claiming to be politically correct. They are saying things like rip up the Constitution, rip up the American Constitution. Oh, it happened like 200 years ago, blah, blah, blah. So I'll give you an example. Michael Che, who's a comedian on Saturday Night Live. Michael Che hosts Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live with Colin Jost. And Michael Che did a whole bunch of jokes about how the American Constitution was written like 200 years ago. It's meaningless. Rip it up, whatever. Like, rip up the American Constitution. And then Saturday Night Live made a habit of firing people, comedians, who apparently crossed the line. Jesus, sorry, not Jesus. I would think that crossing the line, if you're gonna, if Saturday Night Live is gonna say talk about crossing the line, I think crossing the line would be saying something like ripping up the American Constitution, mislabeling someone and calling them a he instead of a she or a they, like that's one thing. But for someone to actually say about a country that you want to rip up their constitution, that's not just crossing the line. That's like treason. That's like treason. Like a comedian on Saturday Night Live saying he wants to rip up the American Constitution or he thinks, oh, it was written 200 years ago. Like, isn't that treasonous? Isn't that treason to like want to rip up the American Constitution? But then meanwhile, Saturday Night Live is like, oh, they don't want to hire this other comedian because he's too edgy, or they don't want to hire that comedian because she's too tall or whatever, or they don't want to hire this comedian because, hello, if anything is crossing the line, it's comedians saying stuff like, we're going to rip up the Constitution of the United States of America. I mean, so, and I'm very liberal with free speech, so I don't even care. Like, and I'm Canadian. That's the other reason why I don't care. I mean, I'm from Canada, so if you guys rip up your Constitution, it doesn't really affect Canada. So, but I'm just thinking you Saturday Night Live people are hypocrites. You Saturday Night Live people are total hypocrites. First, you don't hire me to be a comedian. So no, no, you Saturday Night Live people, you're total hypocrites. First, you try to pick and choose and nitpick and say what is politically correct and what's not politically correct. And then you start talking about on Weekend Update ripping up the American Constitution. That is the most hypocritical BS I've ever heard. And actually, I think it's even treasonous. Like someone talking about ripping up their country's constitution, that sounds like treason, in my opinion. So, I'm all for saying whatever people want. I'm the first one to talk about free speech. What I'm talking about is how Saturday Night Live can vilify some comedians and say, like, they literally fired a comedian for his freedom of speech, for his jokes, saying they were too edgy. Saturday Night Live fired a comedian for their jokes being too edgy or not their type of cup of tea or whatever. Because I guess it didn't fit with their political narrative. It didn't fit with Saturday Night Live's political narrative. So Saturday Night Live fired a certain comedian. But it fits with their, it's politically correct for Saturday Night Live to want to rip up the Constitution and make jokes about ripping up the American Constitution. I'm talking about the fact that they're hypocrites. I'm for free speech. So I agree with you that the person who came in, I agree with you. You can say whatever you want. But what I'm saying is Saturday Night Live is actually violating this other comedian's freedom of speech by firing him for his freedom of speech, for his joke, for his comedy. So Saturday Night Live, they're hypocrites. They fire the wrong people. And Saturday Night Live, the other thing is they do push a lot. I have to admit, and I'm Canadian, and I have no problem admitting this. You know, Saturday Night Live, Lauren Michaels, right? He's Canadian, the guy who, the producer of Saturday Night Live. They do a lot of Canadian propaganda. They really do. So I'm Canadian admitting this. I'm a Canadian admitting that Saturday Night Live does a lot of pro-Canadian propaganda. It really does. So, and quite frankly, they do meddle in American elections. I mean, for all of these years, America was blaming Russia, accusing the Russians of meddling in American elections. What do you think Saturday Night Live does with all of this Canadian propaganda that they do? And also, Saturday Night Live, if you notice, they heavily favor one candidate over the other, always. Saturday Night Live constantly favors one candidate over the other. So if anyone's, spreading propaganda, spreading lies, especially Canadian propaganda, which Saturday Night Live is known for, spreading Canadian propaganda. And I'm not just saying that because Lauren Michaels, the producer of Saturday Night Live, is Canadian. I'm saying it because I have seen the jokes, I have seen what is written, and and being a Canadian, I can tell you that a lot of it is pro Canada, pro Canadian values, pro this, pro that. So especially ripping up the American Constitution and burning down the White House. Wait, did they talk about burning down the White House? Anyways, definitely ripping up the American Constitution. That's like pro Canadian, pro anti American propaganda, pro Canadian propaganda. So yeah, Saturday Night Live, they're constantly meddling in American elections. And all these years, you've been accusing the Russians of meddling in your elections. I think it's to start time, and I'm a Canadian saying this. I think it's about time Americans start to point the finger at Canada, especially with Saturday Night Live. And you guys should look into the jokes, the so-called jokes on Saturday Night Live. I bet if you did a sting operation on Saturday Night Live, a lot of those so-called jokes would actually be political propaganda against the United States. Just saying. Like, I swear, I bet if Americans did a real sting operation on Saturday Night Live, on the producers of Saturday Night Live, they would actually see that those so-called jokes on Saturday Night Live are much less jokes and more like pure political propaganda, anti-American propaganda, pro-Canadian propaganda. You guys should seriously consider doing a sting operation on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, like you can go in with the hidden cameras and everything, talk to the producers. Maybe they could send in an actress or something, or an actor to Saturday Night Live. They can rendezvous with the producers. I don't know how they would do a sting operation against Saturday Night Live, but if you did, you would probably see that that whole show is like political propaganda. It's not really a comedy sketch show. It's more anti-American political propaganda against the United States. Might be from Canada, might even be from Russia, might be from China, but it's definitely anti-American propaganda. And they're definitely meddling in American elections, for sure. I understand jokes. I am for jokes. Like I said, I am very liberal with free speech. I am the first one to tell any kind of joke that I want to tell. But what I'm telling you is that when you Americans are constantly accusing the Russians of meddling in American elections, you even arrested several Russian, so-called Russian spies several years ago, and you accused them of meddling in American elections, the Russian spies. And I'm telling you that Canada, full on, if someone could win the award, the meddling award, like the golden medal for meddling, if there was a country that could win the golden medal for meddling, the meddling award, it would probably be Canada because Canada constantly meddles in American politics. Canada's constantly meddling in American elections. So you all want to point the finger constantly at Russia. Meanwhile, Canada's been doing it this whole time. And if you just watch Saturday Night Live, you will see a lot of the jokes are like anti-American propaganda. So I don't know, do you Americans have propaganda laws? Because I'm telling you, if you do, and you're only arresting the Russians for alleged propaganda, I mean, you should look at Saturday Night Live. There's a lot of propaganda there, a lot. But I'm very liberal. I'm pro free speech. I'm pro jokes, so I don't care. I'm just letting you know. Especially about when he talks about ripping up the American Constitution. I would have thought that that must be treason. Like, if there was any question to be like, hey, what would be one of the most treasonous things you could do in America? I think at the top of the list, rip up the American Constitution would be pretty treasonous. Like, it'd be like they could have, imagine if they had a reality show. How treasonous can you go? How treasonous can you get? Like the America's next top treason traitor, America's next top traitor. Dun, 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 dun. Who wants to be? You want to be a traitor? Who wants to be America's next top traitor? Like I could just see them on the first episode, like ripping up the American Constitution. Like ripping up the American Constitution is the most. It seems like the most traitorous thing that an American can do if they want to be a traitor. Be like, oh, that's freedom of speech. Ripping up the Constitution is freedom of speech. Be like, oh, selling secrets to Iran. Oh, that's freedom of speech. Like, they just like defend all of it. Helping the Russians try to overthrow the American government. That's freedom of speech. Like, so no, I'm very pro-liberal. I'm not liberal. I'm not liberal. I'm conservative. But I'm conservative and I believe in free speech. I'm a Canadian conservative and I'm for free speech. But I'm just saying, like constantly I hear see all of these. Oh, they just arrested a Chinese spy for spreading propaganda. They arrested a Russian spy for spreading propaganda. Hello, what about Canada? They're constantly spreading propaganda against Americans. But because they're Canadian and because they look, because they're Canadian and they're not Chinese or Russian, no one touches the Canadian propagandist. So. And I'm saying this as a Canadian in defense of Americans. So, Saturday Night Live has lots of propaganda. Tons. Hey, America's Next Top Trader. That would actually be an interesting show. I can't believe I just thought of that. America's Next Top Trader. People would probably watch too. I don't even know how that show would work. Like, would they send a team of what people into the White House and America's Next Top Trader? Like, or maybe it'll be like one of those podcast shows. Like, it'll be like a YouTube show where the person just every month or every week is be like, this is America's Next Top Trader, and then shows the trader, the American trader. Actually, for real, I had a great idea for a spin-off of show called America's Next Top Psychic. You know that the CIA, apparently the American Central Intelligence Agency, actually used actually used psychics. The American CIA, the American Central Intelligence Agency, actually used psychics to like figure stuff out. And the FBI, apparently, the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the American police also use psychics. There must be, if the CIA and the FBI is using psychics to solve crimes, there must be more to psychics. There, of course, they must not all be, fake and scammers. There must be real psychics out there. So imagine if they had a reality show called America's Next Top Psychic. Be like da 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 da. You want to be a psychic? You want to predict the stock market? Da da da. America's Next Top Psychic. And they take like 20 of America's best psychics and they put them through tests every week and they actually test to see if these people are really psychic or not. That would be a really interesting show because like I said, there is some truth I think to psychics. If the CIA is using psychics and the FBI is using psychics, then there must be people who actually do have real psychic gifts. But of course, there's also scammers and there's people who are not really psychic. So they could have America's Next Top Psychic, which I think people would watch. Everyone would watch that, America's Next Top Psychic. And they could actually test psychics for real, give them real tests to see if these women, these or men, because it'd be a mix of men and women, because not only women are psychic, men are there's psychic men too, and they could have a mix of men and women on America's Next Top Psychic, and see actually who's really psychic. And then the top psychic at the end of the show could win the award. And then the psychic would be like, I knew I was going to win. You know why? Because I'm a psychic. I knew I was going to win America's Next Top Psychic. You know why? Because I'm a psychic. And also because the show's fixed. The other thing we have to figure out is what's JD Vance's role in all of this Epstein list? Like, first off, people are saying, and it's true, that Trump desperately needs to release the Epstein files already. Trump needs to release the Epstein files. But if Trump really was this whole purpose of this term was to cover up the Epstein stuff, why would he pick JD Vance? Like, did he pick JD Vance because JD Vance would be like a good accomplice in covering up the Epstein files, the Epstein case? Is JD Vance truly an outsider to this? So we got to figure out what JD Vance's role in this whole Epstein case is because, obviously if a president like Trump was going into this 4-year presidency with the idea that he was going to cover up the Epstein files, the Epstein case, then why would he pick JD Vance? A person could potentially expose him. Wouldn't he want to pick someone who was going to help him cover up the Epstein stuff, right? So, especially if JD Vance wants to run in 2028 for president, we got to figure out where JD Vance stands in all of this Epstein turmoil stuff, Epstein case. So this guy came in. Hello, welcome to the live stream. Thank you for your question. Thank you for your comments, your participation. I don't know how to say your name. I think your name is Iroquois. Plis. Sorry, I don't know. I don't know how to say your name. I apologize if I say your name incorrectly. Iroquois. He says, "Why would Vance expose him? Why not? I mean, wouldn't it be in Vance's best interest to expose Trump? I mean, if Vance wants to run for 2028 and he doesn't expose Trump, like I could just imagine the next debate, the presidential debate, where all the people want to be president, and they all debate each other prior to the presidential nominees, and they all get on stage, and the first thing they would say to JD Vance is, "You had the opportunity and the chance as vice president under Trump to expose Trump with regards to the Epstein stuff. Why didn't you? Why did you keep silent? Why didn't you like?" I'm sure JD Vance, being vice president, has access to the White House. I'm sure he has access to the Epstein files. In fact, JD Vance could probably even leak the Epstein files himself. Like, this is common sense. Like, obviously, JD Vance, being the vice president, could easily go into the White House himself and leak the Epstein files. He doesn't have to even say that, oh, he's the one who leaked the files. I'm sure JD Vance could go in the White House, get those Epstein files, and then give the Epstein files to a leaker, like a reporter, and then they could even leak the Epstein files. Like, it's not rocket science. So, like, why wouldn't JD Vance expose Trump? In fact, JD Vance would look like a hero. I mean, he would get probably 99% people voting for him if JD Vance did what Trump is refusing to do, and JD Vance went in the White House, grabbed those Epstein files, and leaked them. Even if he doesn't like admit that he's the one who leaked them and he just gives a copy of them to a reporter or something, still, like JD Vance would be a hero because give the people what they want. And what the people want, what the people are demanding is that Donald Trump release those Epstein files. So if JD Vance, the vice president of Trump, is like, "Whoa, Trump, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you releasing the Epstein files?" And then JD Vance just grows a pair, and just goes himself and just gets those Epstein files and leaks them, then JD Vance would not only show the world that he has balls, even bigger balls than the French president's wife, Brigitte Macron, but not only would JD Vance show and prove to the world that he's got balls, but he would be doing the right thing. He would be doing the honorable, ethical thing, which is to release those Epstein files because the people want the truth. And that would almost, I would say, guarantee JD Vance a victory in the 2028 election. If JD Vance goes and leaks those Epstein files and does it before Trump does it, right? Because Trump has already said he doesn't want to leak the Epstein files. Trump has already said, "Oh, why are you still talking about the Epstein files? Just because, like Trump has already said it. He doesn't want to leak the Epstein files." So if JD Vance wants to be the hero in this case, it would totally make sense for JD Vance as vice president. I'm sure he has access to the Epstein files to go in, get those Epstein files, and the people want them released. He would be doing what the people of America want. And if he doesn't do it, I cannot see people voting for him. How could people vote for JD Vance in 2028 when he had the opportunity to leak the Epstein files and to be the hero and he didn't? And it would actually make even him look complicit. The fact that JD Vance, the vice president under Trump, had the opportunity to actually leak the Epstein files and he didn't, that shows that he might even be complicit in the Epstein files and complicit also in the Epstein cover-up. So I think, and it's common sense, that if JD Vance wants to win the 2028 election and be president himself and prove to the world that he had nothing to do with the Epstein stuff, then he should give the people what they want. And what the people want is the people want the Epstein files to be released. They want the Epstein list to be released, and JD Vance should do what the American people want him to do. And what the American people want JD Vance to do is release the Epstein files. He made well. Hello, thank you, coming in, Mr. Bosky. He said he doesn't say he wants to release. He made it. It came off that way. It came. I mean, did he technically say the words that he never wants to release them? It came off that way, and that's what I was saying. What I was saying, what it was my point was, it definitely came off like as if Trump never wants to release the Epstein files. Because when you ask someone, "Hey, aren't you going to release the Epstein files?" and their response is, "Oh, why are you still talking about the Epstein files?" And he wants people to forget about the Epstein files. Well, that seems to me that's pretty obvious. It seems to me, in my opinion, that it's like he doesn't want to ever release them. So if someone says to you, "Oh, what Epstein files?" They don't want to. "Oh, you still talking about the Epstein files?" Like that's what Trump said. That was Trump's response. So like, did he verbatim? Was his exact words? He never wants to release the Epstein files. No, but it definitely seems that way, and that's what I was saying. Saying it definitely seems as if Trump is never going to release those Epstein files. Because they asked him, "What are you going to do?" And he's like, "Oh, Epstein files. Why are you still talking about Epstein? Like, aren't you guys going to forget about it? Don't the American people have a short attention span? Like, aren't you Americans just going to forget about it?" I'll tell you what, I have a suspicion that Jennifer Lopez is in the CIA. I'll tell you why. So Jennifer Lopez, I do think she's part of the Central Intelligence Agency. I'll tell you why. So she did several concerts in Russia. Okay, I know what you're gonna say. Oh, just because she did concerts in Russia doesn't necessarily mean she's part of the CIA. No, it doesn't. But it also is evidence and circumstantial evidence leaning that she could be, because a lot of celebrities, a lot of singers, pop singers, they're not just gonna pop over to North Korea and do a performance in North Korea. Okay, a singer and a singer, celebrity, pop star like Jennifer Lopez, who goes to these like countries like North. I don't know if she went to North Korea, but goes to countries like Russia and North Korea and Iran, countries that have very poor or no, in fact, zero diplomatic relationship with the United States. Like that's a big deal, especially if she goes to like one of these countries where the United States has no diplomatic relationship with, like with North Korea. Okay, but even Russia, I mean Russia, the relationship everyone admits between Russia and the United States has always been shady, has always been shoddy. The relationship between Russia and the United States. So obviously, just doing alone, but there's more reasons. I'll tell you the more reasons. But obviously, her Jennifer Lopez doing concerts in Russia obviously doesn't mean she's CIA. Now the other reason is because Jennifer Lopez does a lot of movies where she like is acting as someone from the CIA or FBI. She did The Cell. The Cell, okay, so The Cell was from 2000, like 25 years ago. She did the movie The Cell. But I swear The Cell is like was ahead of its time with regards to mind control and technology and all of this, like entering the human brain. And it was part of the CIA. I'm pretty sure there was a CIA storyline in The Cell. So she does a lot of movies where she like acts as an FBI agent, or she's part of like the CIA, stuff like that. So that's another, obviously, that alone doesn't mean she could be in the CIA, but it definitely adds more to it. And then the third reason is this whole with election stuff, all of this election stuff, and then on top of it, her silence with Diddy. And then why is Jennifer Lopez suddenly seem as if she has immunity? Like no one's really. A lot of people admit that Jennifer Lopez is probably part of that whole Diddy stuff, but they're not going after her. It seems as if she's being given a free pass and immunity, as if she's in the CIA. She's getting immunity. So obviously, those things, those little facts alone, doesn't necessarily mean she's in the CIA, but altogether, all of those things combined, it just makes me suspect. I'm not saying that it's a slam dunk evidence that she's in the CIA. Of course, we never really know for sure because CIA agents, a real CIA agent will never out themselves, will never admit that they're in the CIA. So we can never really know for sure, but we can suspect things. And obviously, she's definitely suspect, Jennifer Lopez, to be in the CIA for those reasons and more. There was another reason too, I can't remember, but anyways. And Jennifer Lopez was extremely active in the election, as you can see. Jennifer Lopez was very active in the election as well, which is another thing that the CIA likes to do is be active in elections, overthrow elections, meddle in elections. The CIA is famous for. So. It's not a knock to her at all. I mean, if anything, it's flattering to suggest that someone could be in the CIA. I mean, Jennifer Lopez, she's fit. She looks amazing. She doesn't look like she's aged at all, Jennifer Lopez. She looks amazing. Another characteristic of someone in the CIA, like extremely fit, active, healthy. Jennifer Lopez, like she could throw a punch. Jennifer Lopez, she's a fighter. She's active, healthy. Another characteristics of someone in the CIA. So I think Jennifer Lopez, there's a lot of reasons why you it would be okay at least to suspect her of being in the CIA. I'm not saying she is, but I definitely, if I had to suspect who might be in the CIA, I would definitely say Jennifer Lopez. And then on top of it, Candace Owens is coming out being like, oh, she has all this information about the CIA and MK Ultra. Hey, Candace Owens, where are you getting this information? By the way, how did you also get the information that the French president's wife's a man? Because you did say that you got it from a reporter, but who leaked it to the reporter? Did it just fall in the reporter's lap? Who leaked it to the reporter? Did the CIA leak it to the reporter? And how come just like a few months ago, Trump was having negotiations with Canada, and then when the negotiations between Trump and Canada failed, then Trump said he wanted to make Canada the 51st state. Then Trump was having trade negotiations with France, Emmanuel Macron, and after the trade negotiations failed between Trump and France, America and France, then suddenly somehow someone gets randomly leaked. It's randomly leaked by someone to a reporter that the French president's wife's a man. Are you not seeing a pattern here? Donald Trump fights with Mexico, then he wants to put tariffs on Mexico. Donald Trump argues with Canada about trade negotiations, and then Trump wants to make Canada the 51st state. Donald Trump has failed trade negotiations with France, argues with the French president. Then he suddenly someone leaks somewhere, probably CIA, someone leaks somewhere that the French president's wife's a man. Like, hey, Trump, when you have trade negotiations with China, is the Great Wall of China going to explode? Hey, Trump, I really hope those trade negotiations that you have with China goes well. Because I really would hate to see the Great Wall of China explode. Like, seriously, like, every time Trump has bad trade negotiations with a country, something is exposed about the country, or happens to the country, or threatens to make the country the 51st state. Like, Canada,